Oh, so you want to write a novel?
Awesome!
You're in luck. You found my channel. I know so much about how to write a novel from all the books I read on how to do it 15 years ago when I first get started. But that's okay, because you can and should say I know everything there is about how to write a novel, except for publishing. I'm not quite there yet in 20 years, but that's okay. You're not here for that part. You're here on how to write a novel, and I'm the perfect person to help you. What's my fellow scribes? Tim here. Welcome back to the channel. This is the 12th video in my series on my word of the year. I'm sorry, quarter. With that word being
Failure.
I'm examining past failures, take you on the journey. Okay, let's get to the heart of this. Why am I doing another failure video in September when I wrapped this series up, in April? Somehow this one got left off the list to do. I don't know how. Especially when I have on my Scrivener file for this, a list of them. And this is number 10. How it got left off?
I don't know.
But it did. And I want that to be a fully wrapped series, complete series. So I'm doing it now. This is not going to be multiple episodes throughout the week. We'll return to the daily series next week. If you'd like to get a proper start to the series, you can check the links to the playlist in the cards above and the description down below. So let's talk about how I was a know-it-all when it came to writing a novel. I know, right? It still amazes me in this golden age of knowledge on how to write a novel. People who want to write don't learn everything there is about how to do it. Writing a novel is hard work when you know how to do it. It's even harder when you don't know how. When I decided I wanted to write novels, I knew nothing about how to do it, and I dedicated myself to learn how. I was hungry. I wanted anything and everything I could get my hands on to figure this out. This was back in 2004, 2005, when there was not nearly as many books on how to write a novel back then. There were no endless pages on the internet on how to write a novel.
None.
I had to read books by authors who actually sold a book to a publisher. People who knew what they were talking about. Not someone who read a short blog post on writing advice that never dives into details, which leads them to questioning good writing advice, all because someone never told them what show don't tell actually means. Very quickly, I became an expert on all the books I've read and all the conversations I've had with a few published authors. This is where the failure pops its ugly head in. When you read a lot of books over several years on writing a novel, you tend to see repeated information. It's not a bad thing because it will reinforce all the important information on writing one. But there is a bad thing because, as I said, it's the same information and it's pretty much the same way. After 5 years of reading books, I was getting the same information from the same perspective, with little differences. So I figured I knew everything I needed to know about how to write a novel. So I stopped learning. Because
I was an expert.
I stopped reading these books right before the Kindle book boom. And soon after that, new books on how to write a novel were being published that had new information. Most of it was the same, but it was in a new light, a fresh perspective. And I missed out because I already knew everything I needed to know on how to write a novel. And boy, was I wrong. When you think you're an expert at writing a novel, you start acting like one, talking like one. There's nothing wrong with that.
Unless you're not.
And this was me. I had a swagger about me because of my knowledge, especially around other writers. I became very opinionated on how you write a novel. All the jokes on this channel about how pantsers are not real writers or are doing it wrong.
Yep.
Thought that.
It wasn't as bad as when it came to write every day.
Yep.
That was a thing. You had to write every day. No excuses. You can learn more about it. What I wanted was acknowledgement of how good I thought I was. So in college,
the second degree.
I joined a writing group, and boy was I a pain in the ass there. It's not because I looked down upon anyone or mocked them or anything, none of that. However, I did like to show off, even wow them with how many words I could write during the writing time in these club meetings. Because remember, when you're an expert, you flaunt your knowledge.
Wrong.
While I didn't know a lot about writing, my writing ability was nowhere close to what it should have been. It was not up to par. This is because writing is a skill and takes time. Check this series out. I cared more about having a good plot, exciting events than, three-dimensional characters. Because obviously, everyone knows characters don't really matter. They can all blend together. And I cared about being seen as a superstar because I was the next breakout author. How I forgot about this failure, I don't know. It ties directly into my greatest failure. That failure being the first one in this series. I was the next J.K. Rowling.
No, not the crazy one who's anti-LGBTQ.
And ruining her career.
Not that one. When you know it all, especially when it comes to writing, it only helps to inflate your delusions that you're the next great author, the next big thing in publishing. Now, that delusion started long before I even learned how to write, knew anything. But as I learned and got more experience, more knowledge, it only helped to inflate my ego and make it very clear to me I was the next breakout author. When I started to notice issues with my work in progress, my bloated ego for my knowledge only made it easier to live in the delusions instead of trying to figure out what was wrong or learn something new. There was still much to learn, but I didn't care. Maybe if I started checking every few years for new books on how to write a novel, this wouldn't have happened. But that would have meant admitting I wasn't an expert, that I still had much to learn, and that was never gonna happen at that point. Okay, I'm done. I finally hit all my big failures in this series. Well, the ones I know about. And I hope I don't figure out I had more, because that would just be depressing. It would be. Yeah, it would be. Oh well. Well, we're done. This series is a wrap for now. Here's a question. Have you ever thought you knew everything there was about writing a novel? I hope not, because if you do, you're screwed. Because there's a chance you may never realize there is so much more to learn. You made it into this video. If you liked it, why not smash that like button and subscribe? Is Save the Cat by Blake Snyder worth the hype? Click the video to my right over there to find out. Thanks for watching. Bye.